Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Josh Foreman. I'm working on fantasy novels right now. These are my first two, and I'm working on illustrating the third one. Available on Amazon today. If you like fantasy adventure, you should check them out. And for context, um, let's see, both of these have, I want to say, over 70 illustrations and maps and stuff like that. So I really go all out. I've got world builder's disease, I admit it, but look at this. I literally spent a stream, one stream, probably multiple streams, naming every single village, settlement, farm, ranch over this entire continent that our protagonist travels over. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, so today I want to make a pretty exciting illustration. Last time we were working on this guy, kind of a sad, tragic guy, but after meeting him, they have to go on a little side quest to rescue some children from some awful monsters. These are the Sige, and they gotta fight them. Sige come in all shapes and sizes, because depending on what gets fed to the mother tree, where's the mother tree? Here's the mother tree. She's pretty awful looking herself, but basically all the little drones go out. They feed her whatever critters they find, and whatever those critters are going to influence the DNA that goes into creating the next batch. And then once they like scour the area clean, one of these little egg fruits will birth a new mother. The mother goes off, and some portion of the tribe follows along behind her. Then she plants herself, and the cycle begins anew. So anyway, in the scene I want to illustrate today, or start roughing out, I have an idea. I'm going to do an illustration sandwich. I'm going to start illustrating, then I'm going to shift to something like a different art thing, and then I'm going to come back to it near the end of the stream. Because what I find is that often, if you try to power through an illustration, especially complicated ones, let's find... I guess this is a pretty good example. So this is, that's too spoilery. I don't want to share that one. Where's a good complicated one? I thought I had like a big action scene one here. Well, maybe here's a good example. This is from the first book, where, let's see if we can get it so the light's not reflecting weird. Basically, we've got Beaumark here diving into a sunken throne room where he's retrieving these treasures, and there's these like killer packfish, kind of like piranha, that are like swarming from room to room. So he has to go up and like find a new chamber to dive into. Anyway, I was trying to do several particular things with the composition of this, and I think a better solution than just powering through from start to finish is to do a rough, very rough draft. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get like super disciplined here. I'm going to do a couple thumbnails first to try to get the gist of the idea down. And let's see, actually probably square-ish is the best format for most illustrations, because they need to be an ebook and regular book. And like when an illustration is like that, it fits really nicely, right? It's like you got text, you got a picture of what's going on in the text. So I kind of like that format, but if you have a lot of detail that you really want to like show a bunch of things, nothing beats the full like page. But to be most versatile when it comes to the layout, definitely I think square, there's another example, is pretty good for that. into these, I'm never going to tell where this book is available. It's a secret to everyone. Okay, so anyway, roughly square-ish is probably what I want for this composition. And so the scene is that one of these Sidge, there's a giant one. As I said, they come in all different sizes. And so they're fighting one that's like, you know, almost troll size. It's got 3 legs, and in this scene, Beaumark, this guy, our protagonist, has jumped up onto its back and is like yanking its head back to expose its neck for, I can't remember if it's this guy. I'm just gonna have to make a generic guy until I remember who it is. Someone has picked up one of these Sidge scythe weapons and plunges it into the monster's neck. Now, unfortunately, because it is a scythe-shaped, curved thing, it ends up poking through his neck and into Beaumark's torso, which is unfortunate for Beaumark. But one thing we like to do in our books is not make invincible heroes who are just like lucky 100% of the time and walk away from everything unscathed. So a lot of the journey is actually recovering from injury. Okay, so what are we thinking? We're thinking we need a monster, right? Probably in the middle as the focal point. Ish. They're generally shaped, kind of moon-shaped critters. Head like so. Now this one's got 3 legs, probably because Mother Tree was fed a lot of 4-legged creatures. And while Sidge, their sort of original recipe is bipedal, if if Mother Tree is fed enough quadrupeds and such, eventually mistakes happen. So giving it a 3rd leg, probably coming out from the tail. I'm imagining these guys pretty much have a vertebra, and tails are, you know, where the vertebra keeps going. And so if the neck is being wrenched back, the head is going to be up like so. Let's keep our reference here in frame. And we've got Beaumark sort of like up on his back. Still trying to figure out proportions here. So if his ear antennas are being yanked back to expose the neck. Now the scythe has to be going through the neck. So someone's got to be swinging it from around here. I believe he's kind of up on a rocky outcrop thing. Although he could be swinging it up into the neck as well. I don't know. That's where this thumbnailing phase is valuable. I'm just kind of doing... So we really need to get Beaumark's torso like right there, hugging up against the creature. So rather than pulling on the antenna, could be, oh actually I think I remembered writing this because I was kind of blocking it out in my mind. Beaumark's actually using a staff shifter, which is like a cylindrical bow staff that can shrink down to about 1.5 feet long and then expand out to about 5 feet long. But yeah, I think he's got it in the creature's mouth. He's yanking back on it. we've got a third character in this scene as well who is like, oh right, it was knocked to its knees. I can't believe I forgot this. Knocked to its knees. No French lessons right now, please. Okay. Nope, that's not how you put something on its knees. I gotta figure. Okay, so if it's on its knees, it really needs to be curling its torso in more. Okay. Not sure how to do a third leg back here. I'm just gonna pencil it in like that for now. Okay, so this thing is kind of turning into a complete mess, but I'm gonna go in and darken up some lines to let's see. Now there are also other Sige swarming around, all different size ones. So I might want to have the third person who, like, it took 3 people to take this thing down, right? But they're not the only 3 people, and it's not the only Sige. There are other ones around. So I'm thinking maybe at this stage, our other miner here is fighting some other Sige off to the side. Compositionally, I'll want to play with where that ends up. But okay, so if this guy is on a rock, stabbing horizontally into the neck with his scythe. Let's see, and I'm gonna have him do it like baseball bat style, like he's really jabbing with all his strength. That doesn't sound like biology. Well, these guys are genetically created weapon designed specifically to destroy ecosystems. There's another version of these guys that are essentially armor and weapons that cling on to the people who, the aliens who created these guys, use them as biological armor and weapons and wings and stuff like that. Okay, so now that I've kind of barfed out this scribble, I'm gonna try another composition. You know, also this is like a very dispassionate, just like straight on view. You know, you could get a lot more dynamic by putting the camera lower or higher. Probably lower if we're trying to emphasize the monstrosity of this thing. So let me try something like that. So if the monster is like this, let's see, on the knees. The horizon then is like low, down there. Like here, the horizon is somewhere up there. Okay, then we've got our little rock formation. And let's cut it off there. Actually, rather than doing that, what I should do, we should start from the thing we know is happening, which is that a sharp point is going through this thing's neck into poor Beaumark's abdomen. Okay. And so knowing that we need that to happen, where does a scythe, how does the scythe bend properly to get there? Because you could imagine the guy like standing here and swinging it up like that, but compositionally, that would be annoying. I could rotate everything around, but then that's essentially just putting the guy in the just swinging from left or right, and so that doesn't really matter. The other thing I was thinking of is like if the scythe is coming from the bottom. No, because of the shape of it, it doesn't really work. I think it does need to be coming from the side. Okay. Yeah, so I'm kind of ending up with more or less the same thing, but different horizon line. Which is fine. Okay, so I think that gives me enough information, like these very rough sketches, to start blocking out my final comp. So I'll start by putting, a rough horizon-ish line. We're going to want it fairly low. I guess because characters are interacting around the monster in the middle, I probably want to start with that shape. Now, if the camera is kind of looking up, I drew this wrong. You would see that the roof of its mouth, and you would not see into the bottom jaw. You would kind of see the bottom of the jaw there. Now, the way I have these guys designed, they don't really have necks per se, but that's probably, again, these it's very flexible, the design of these guys. So. I don't have really defined hips or shoulders. If I do this more staggered, he's trying to get up. Third leg could be kind of a malformed, twisted thing. I think I wrote that Beaumark like jumps up, like climbs up the back of him by getting off that back leg. Okay, and if we're pulling the mouth back, with essentially like a bit, the kind of thing you would put in a horse's mouth. See, Beaumark's hands have to be on either side of it. And then if he's pulling, I'm trying to think, he's pulling back, can he be pulling it towards his torso. I guess if... Yeah, one of the logistics that I'm having trouble getting here is maybe this one I'll give a more of a neck and like a big back hump sort of thing, because I need that neck thinner to be able to get a scythe through there, and having a mark right there. Let's see. So I'm thinking like rib cage. I'm just drawing an oval for a rib cage. You know, neck, head. And then I'm trying to decide, is he like hugged up against the back? I think that's what it needs to be. He needs to be really snuggled up there. He can't be like with his feet, you know, pulling away. Which means his spine would be, like his lower back would be pressed against the creature more that way. So how are the hips rotated here? Imagine his other, so basically he's straddling the thing, you know, like he's riding a horse. That works. Although not having a purchase for his feet seems bad. Maybe, let's see, what if it's... You know, I haven't really established shoulders for this guy, so the knee could be pressed up against this guy's shoulder. We gotta decide what his arm is doing here. Just put it down there for now. The hands are like with a pull-up in sports, since you have more strength there. Oh, you pull like underhanded. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, that's looking really weird. Looks like he's riding a motorcycle. not happy with this. All right, let's try something else. I mean, I could sort of like hide most of his body behind like a big humped back and just kind of have him sort of, you know, flailing around, which that is more the aesthetic that I try for in my stories, is like trying to make things seem plausible. It's not like anime or superheroes where they're always like in the perfect pose doing the most amazing thing. It's closer to like Indiana Jones, where he's sometimes slipping or tripping or like, about to get, you know, that sort of thing. So in that case, if I put the monster's shoulder here, I would imagine that the monster would be trying to get this thing off its back, right? It's not going to be like a Colossus in Shadow of the Colossus, where it just kind of gently shakes its head. but depending on its anatomy, it may not actually be able to reach back there. So what the other arm is doing is going to have compositional consequences, right? Because if I want the scythe kind of embedded in its neck here, and then coming out back there, I need to pour Beaumark's lower rib cage. Anything I do with its arm in this area is going to sort of obscure the clarity that I'm trying to achieve with this thing. So I think I just need to establish where this guy is and what he's doing. Again, just want to make sure I'm sticking with the original concept of what the sides look like. See, they come off of the birth pod, and they're like solidify into this very hard wood spiky thing. Okay, so again, thinking baseball, bats, the guy's like in full sort of swing, which means let's see, shoulder. Hold on a minute. Let's see. Swinging, my feet are planted far apart. I'm twisted. Well, in this case, let's see. Twisted this way. Okay, so the shoulders are coming towards, and I'm imagining the camera is down low. So actually the shoulders are going to be kind of aligned with the camera. So front shoulder here, back shoulder here. Line up the... Actually, let's see, the pelvis, that's where like a baseball bat swing is interesting, is that it's sort of like, left hand is hard to figure out. Okay. So where are my hips? Actually, my hips are pretty close to aligned. Interesting, okay. For some reason that seemed too static. Wait, was it the front? So the one that's... Okay, the forward foot is in the direction you're swinging. So if I'm going mirroring that, forward foot would be that one. Okay, so this is the one I want to be straight up. Didn't think you'd be learning so much about baseball on this stream, did you? I find it's helpful to think about baseball when I'm drawing fantasy illustrations. That looks really weird. Does it need a little bit of a thing? I think legs just need to be a lot longer. Especially, let's see, I think I might want to raise this hip up here because again, I'm trying to get that looking up-ish perspective. Oh, right. Okay, I need to move this horizon line. Okay, so if the platform he's on is below the horizon line, you're going to see his feet planted. If it's above, you're going to see the lip of the platform, right? So in this case, I think because of his proportions, you're going to see planted feet just below the horizon. So you can imagine a vanishing point there, and like lines radiating like so. Your brain turned off when I said baseball. Sorry. Do you need to be rebooted now? Okay, what am I doing wrong? Maybe I need to get more aggressively curved back. Move these legs over. Don't want to make it knock-kneed. I'm trying to get that twist in where you end up kind of on your back toe. Yeah, and so now the swing is not, yeah, this doesn't make sense. This looks like he's sort of like scooping upward. Where would I have to put him? Just be easier if I move this head a bit. Right, because the idea is I'm trying to get a swoosh going like that, right? Yeah, which means he just needs to be in a completely different location. This is the sort of thing I was hoping to solve in the thumbnail, but I did not. Okay, so monster's head can be tilted back even further. It'll help give a little bit of room. Okay, so hand. Upper body needs to turn more to the swing to show it's still in progress. Well, this is actually this is the end point of the swing. He's not midpoint, it's fully embedded in there at this point. But I agree, he needs to look like He's fully extended. Get these beans in place. Let's see if we got a shoulder here. That's gonna be back. This is gonna be chest. Okay. Now with the horizon line here, we're going to have him up on a, again, some kind of interesting rocky outcrop. Probably going to want to scatter a couple more of these, so it's not just like a convenient stage for him. Let's see, he's doing this. It's going to be fingers curled up this way, thumb over there. I'm still not happy with this. I feel like feels a little too gentle, almost like he's just sort of going you know. How do I get that full, like, I've completely extended my body? Maybe I need this leg down here. Better. It's not quite there yet. What if this knee is like straight at the camera, right? Because that's where his leg was planted originally. And his hip would be going back that way. What's going on here? Drawing is hard. I much prefer sculpting. You don't have to figure out perspective You can just move the parts around till they look right instead of having to erase constantly. You know what? Guess what the internet has? Pictures of baseball players swinging a baseball bat. Baseball bat swing. Swing bat bat. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that I'm trying to get at. That guy in the red shirt right there. Look at that. So, firmly planted, straight out leg. This back one is ridiculously bent. Arms straight out. So here's an interesting one showing the different phases of it. But again, leg straight out, knee bent on the tip of the toe, because that's kind of what you're launching off of, right? Trying to find, let's see, let me try baseball bat swing, left-handed. Ready. Look at that. Look at that. It's like almost exactly angle and everything that I need. So let's try to recreate that. So that is, oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to think of where the horizon line is for this, and it's like, actually, the camera is pretty low here. So it's pretty close to matching, not quite. But like his shoulder, like the shoulder that's closer to us being lower than the one above, is tricky to me. I'm not just thinking out loud here now. I mean, I guess I do have that now. Let's just see, but it's interesting that he's more hunched. More of a hunch. Like he is. Okay. So we got this, this, toe. Okay. Then the other hip is like directly behind. And then this foot is, it's kind of rolling onto its side. Looks like he's missing half his torso here. Let's get these proportions a little better now. Okay, so there we go. Hips down here. This guy was not nearly hip enough. actually, so his other leg is starting up there. Oh, I've got the hands reversed. Okay, so this hand goes to this arm. That makes way more sense. So the arm in the foreground is the one further up the hilt. This one goes back to a shoulder back here. Okay, so which means neck goes between shoulders. Usually, you usually want to put your neck between your shoulders. I'm just really not happy with this configuration of the legs. I'm going to see if I can go off of my reference to get something that feels better. It's not here. Then you kind of have a feeling of the weight shifting back, which you don't want. You want the feeling that he's lunging forward. So what happens if I put his other leg even further back? That also feels wrong. Interesting. I wonder if, God, in the reference it feels like this leg is pretty much on the same plane from this angle as this one. Like if I could move it back, it would feel more like powerfully planted. but because of the perspective, it really wouldn't. Let's see. Like, spatially, it wouldn't, like, it would barely move up or down on the Z plane because the camera is actually looking up-ish at him there. Now, one thing, this is a McFarlane trick here, or no, a Rob Liefeld trick. If you're struggling and failing at your anatomy, just cover up the hard part, the difficult area with, you know, a tree or a brush, a grass, a monster, whatever you want. Just hide the difficult part. And given how many illustrations I'm trying to do for this, I am not above such tactics. I'm not trying to show off my amazing art skills. I'm trying to illustrate a feeling and an emotion. You know, if my books ever become a success and I could do, like, you know, the next version of them, I will be hiring really good artists to take my ideas and make them better. Okay, so one of the cool things that this does is that with this guy way over here, Beaumark over here, this gives us this big dead space right there, which is perfect for this guy's other arm to be doing something cool. Now, what it's doing and what angle it's going, etc., that's what I kind of want to experiment with here. How much time do we have? So because we've got this line traveling like that, I either want to sort of follow that line or contradict it. I don't want to be in some soft, mushy middle area. Or I want to emphasize the perspective. Somehow that could work too. For instance, I could put his hand here, kind of coming towards the camera. Kind of feels like pretty good flailing, like he just got his knees broken. So plant this knee down a little bit, have this other leg kind of going away. Shalup, how you doing? They could be a bit in the air. Yeah, that's a good point. Because the hands are holding the thing forward and not sideways. It looks like it hits nothing. Because holding the thing forward and not sideways. I'm not sure what you mean. So, do you think the reference looks weak? Like, does that look like a not powerful swing? I'm pretty much emulating that. You know, not that I can actually reproduce it perfectly, but... He's going to need some kind of deltoids and trapezius here to be able to pull a big heavy arm up. Let's see, some kind of chest. Okay, to illustrate staff shifter here, let me just actually double check my staff shifter illustration. I'm not contradicting anything. Oh, that's a Sidge scythe. A more updated version of it. Interesting. I forgot I had made that. Where is my staff shifter at? It's the finest staff shifter show. No, here's Indivi's most hated picture of an old lady. All right, give me feedback, everyone. How old do you think that character is? Hint, it's not actually an old lady. But how old does she read to you? That's supposed to be an old lady. Well, not old, middle-aged lady. Oh, come on. Always on the last page I look. It's just like the rule. Whatever I'm looking for has to be in the last possible place. What? Unless it's way up near the front? Oh my god. Sorry, everyone. Well, I guess you get a tour of my sketchbook instead of actually finding anything. Let's tour my sketchbook, shall we? You sent me a picture where it looks like the person hit something with the sword. And the wrists need to be bent more. Okay, I can check that out. Oh, well, that's a terrible picture. Don't send me terrible pictures, Indivies. I kid, but honestly, I don't think that looks powerful to me. Staff shifter, where are you? Well, there it is in action. Oh, interesting. I forgot I had done this piece. But also not exactly what I'm looking for. There it is. Haha. Okay, staff shifter. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. So it is in its like shortened state. This image, which is about the length of his forearm, more or less. And so, but he also has to be grabbing it. Indivi's was suggesting grabbing from the bottom. I'm just imagining in the heat of battle, how would this come about? Like, he's trying to hit it, like swing it, gets it around. Yeah, I think it's gonna be overhand actually. Like, yeah, if it was a sport, it would definitely make the most sense to do underhand. But I don't think that would naturally occur in the heat of battle like that. Okay, so his other hand is here, pulling, presumably, back in the same direction. Okay, which means his other shoulder is out here. Now, where's Beaumark looking here? Right at the camera, winking at you. No, I probably don't want that. Let's see, is he grimacing or is the mouth open shouting? That's okay, but we do need, again, the inside of the roof of the mouth of this creature, so that's going to hide most of his back arm here. And its eye, I think putting its eye really like centered there, or it's like super creepy. These things have pretty creepy eyes. They're kind of like these weird cone-shaped things, like ribbed cones. And then do I want the bottom jaw? I've got room here. I could have the bottom jaw open more. More is usually better when you're trying to make something look like really dynamic. Oh, right. So this is where it's tricky. Again, the camera is looking up, which means we're seeing the bottom of his jaw, which means his second tooth. You know, I think I've illustrated almost all of them with this sort of bifurcated jaw that has these two little nubbin teeth come out the bottom like that. So. Biceps going in there, which means you're going to have your deltoid coming up, or your pectoral coming up, folding, let's see, up into the delt, which is coming, yeah, okay. Yeah, I got to make room for his feathery antenna thing. That could be going out like that. Or it could be like squashed down against his head. Let's see, because these are such like strong straight lines, they really can do interesting things. They're a powerful tool in a composition. And I'm thinking if they basically funnel your eye down to Beaumark, right, like his face and his expression, that's probably a good use of that power. Sent me more bad pictures. Oh, thank you. Yeah, see, I don't know if like training with swords is the right reference. We're talking about a super desperate, not trained warrior swinging as hard as he can to try to hit a terrifying monster with a weapon he's unfamiliar with. And I kind of feel like the baseball bat swing is sort of the most like iconic, brutal, straightforward way to swing a thing. I don't know, that's just my impression. But yeah, this right now that it looks way too casual. He's just like, da, 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 da. I'm just gonna swoop in here. So I'm gonna have to solve that somehow. We'll get there. Clock. I believe Beaumark is still wearing his dojo outfit from training because he just crossed the desert. And he's also been, without realizing it, using a magical artifact that pretty much sucks you dry. So he's become sort of a withered skeletal version of himself. The final arm stretching is non-intuitive. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that is the part that is the most intuitive. Personally, I'll have to go out and swing some sticks and take some take pictures. Let's see what that looks like. Has something to do with the rotation of these hips, but I'm not going to sweat it till I do some more thinking on the problem. Okay, I'm going to come right back to this. We've got 20 minutes left. I'm going to spend about 10 of it doing some quick carving to clear the palette. Working on these this tiling stone system, and one of them that I'm playing with is this shape, which is interesting because it has the advantage of being able to tile by like any side touching any side, because they're all the same length. And so what I'm trying to do is have these kind of as one-offs, and then have a bigger chunk like this that these, again, you can slot into as a system to expand them however you like. And just gonna reference out. This is the main reference that I'm using for this rock set, because it's got these like nice straight-ish lines that have lots of little triangles in them. And since I have all these seams that are triangular, it makes sense to use that. Okay. Another thing. Where did all my markers go? That will not work. What about you? You work? Close enough. Okay. End of use, your homework for the day is to go out and get in a fight with someone with a big stick. Okay. So basically, I'm wanting to find ways to extend these lines, but in naturalistic ways. And to kind of break up the pattern that you're going to get when you're always matching these things together. Yeah. Okay. So this gives me, this is like the primary shapes that I'm going to be cutting towards. And then after that I can think through the secondaries, but I think that's a pretty good starting point. So first things first, I'm going to cut these ones fairly deep. And I'm doing this thing where I've got like two separate pieces that are going to go together, so I can cast those separately. And then what I've been doing is pressing clay into the mold, and then doing the next step, which I can then make like super detailed, like so. Okay, and then the next question is from a topological perspective. You know, I don't want it to just be flat with cracks going straight down. So to address that, yeah. And I don't think, yeah, it's actually not a problem to go all the way through on these, because this is going to be in the back, and so you'll be able to flip this either way And wherever it's shallow on this side, it's going to be the reverse on the other side. Stick out more on the other side. Oh, after 10 p.m. is the perfect time to randomly attack someone with a stick, enemies. Oh yeah, another thing I want to mark out is some areas where it maintains its full half-inch height. So I'm going to designate some protected areas. Like on this one, I've got like this spot, and this spot. That way, if you're setting it on a flat surface, it's not all wobbling around. And yeah, I've got that on that side, right? So doing the same thing here. And having them near the corners is a pretty good way to keep things stable. It doesn't need to be on the corners, but near them is usually good. So like maybe this whole section here could be good. Try to somewhere in the middle too, so that maybe this one. And set this section. Okay. Oh, I don't get too slash happy. I keep forgetting to sacrifice to the art gods. I think that's why I haven't really gotten much better at art over the past several years. Kind of stagnated. Couple minutes left. Let's go back to our composition. Let's see if my mind has been refreshed enough to rethink anything. Yeah, so I'm just not going to worry about this guy. I'm just going to focus on here. And I think we're pretty good because, yeah, this guy's hips are an absolute disaster. He's got 3 hip joints after all. So I'm not too worried about that. But I'm wondering, let's see, if this dynamic between the shoulders could be adjusted. I feel like if this, yeah, if this whole arm actually is moved up a little bit more, because we've already got this pretty interesting thing going on compositionally where we've got a line coming in from this way, these 2 lines coming in from this way, and then you can imagine if his arm was going out here, kind of completing that arc, if that could be an interesting way to do things. And just raising up that arm a little bit so we get more of a feeling of like twisting, thrashing going on. Used an X-Acto knife when you were 8, tried to take off your thumb. That's all the sacrificing you needed? Wow. I've got a nice scar across my thumb here from a Dremel saw bit, actually. And then another one here that was from a piece of thin metal that I was trying to yank out of something, and my tool slipped and I just, you know, like straight along. Plenty of stitches and blood to the art gods, but yeah, I haven't had a big injury like that in several years, I think. Let's see. So having the arm out like that, I'm not loving it. You know, it's no McDonald's arm. Just before erasing it, let me just sketch in a couple other ideas. He could be, you know, threatening Beaumark with his arm coming down. Could be out like this. Like palming towards the camera. No! Stop! But let's see if he's got the, like, you know, that monster hook hand. You already have that going on with this hand. So it's not as dynamic as it could be. Oh, well, thank you, Eat to Surf. Uh, you know, I'm at that stage where I can get the job done, and so I'm content enough with where I'm at. Trying to move into creating a franchise, and that's less about making a bunch of individual art. Although right now I'm the only artist I can afford right now. But eventually, I'd love to be able to afford better artists who can take these ideas further. So we almost have like a swoopy. So actually, interestingly, this reminds me of that. There's a book on comics called, I think, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, and it has an illustration almost exactly like this. It's like a person throwing a punch, and it shows like, I don't know, like 5 stages of the punch, from the wind up to like partway through, halfway through, almost there, and then like the final fully extended thing, right? And their point was, don't use any of those middle frames because it's not clearly communicating. It's not showing the intent, and it's not showing the result. It's just kind of in a mushy middle. And so I think that's what I was responding to with the arm out here. It just feels like weak. However, maybe that's what I want, because this guy is supposed to be like being finally killed. He's in his death throes. Um, I don't know yet. Maybe this arm needs to be coming a little more towards us. Hmm. There's an interesting symmetry to be had with this top one, between the bottom arm and the top one. It really kind of makes that twist, pushes that twist as far as it can go. Actually, okay. I'm kind of selling myself on this idea, right? Because you've got this movement here, and then what it's doing is it's pulling into a spiral, which brings us back to Beaumark's head. And I can make that spiral more evident by bending this guy's antenna a bit. In which case, the straight out antenna going this way is kind of breaking the flow. But fortunately, I can do whatever I want with this antenna. It's my antenna. I do what I want. There they are. Yeah, and it's time to go raid some other Coolio artist. So let us do that. And maybe I'll continue on this illustration next week. Or maybe I'll be done with it by then. Probably not. We'll see. We'll see. Thanks everyone for joining. Please remember, I have fantasy adventure novels full of illustrations like this but finished that you should check out on Amazon today. They're good. They got great reviews. You like them. Look at that cute guy. Look at that boopable nose. You know you want to boop it. You know you want to boop it. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Catch you on the next one. Thank you for that, Boop.
thank you so much